Hell yeah. Here we are. Episode 24. Been going at this for what? Almost 4 months now. And it's been a lot of fun. Learning process too. If you go back and look at some of the first shows I did, a lot of things have changed. Some things have remained the same, but the show, I'm constantly trying to improve the show, do different things, and but yeah, I'm really excited about tonight. Always get excited talking to people that I look up to. Andy Jones, that I look up to, that influenced me one way or another. That I think have interesting stories to tell and whatnot. So see people chiming in already. Appreciate everybody hanging out. Tell everybody that we are on live right now. Let's get some people in here. Make this shit fun. If you're in the chat, if you got any questions as we go on, I'm always looking at them, so feel free to post any questions you may have. Maybe we'll get to it. If you're new here, absolutely classic. Hello everybody. See a lot of people chiming in. I appreciate you guys hanging out. But if you're new to the show, welcome. Appreciate you being here. Those of you that I see, some of you have been here before. Appreciate everybody hanging out. I've these interviews, I try to do them, one or two a week, sometimes one, depends on schedules and all that. But I'm glad this one worked out. Really, really psyched about it. Just real quick, if you're new to the show, you're new to the channel, just go ahead and subscribe to the channel. That way, get updates, or not updates, but notifications of what's going on and all that with the show. So help me out if you can with that, and I appreciate it. Thank you. All right, so I'm not gonna really waste no time on the introduction today. Again, everybody, thanks for hanging out. Spread the word. Tell everybody we're on, and I ready to introduce my guest tonight. Saying my guest tonight has been an influence on a lot of people. Even saying that is an understatement. Anybody that's ever played fast music, listened to fast music, extreme music, has been one way or another either directly influenced or indirectly influenced by this gentleman and his band Siege. So, I'd like to welcome to the show. Honored to have him on here. Everybody, put your hands together for Mr. Rob Williams. How you doing, sir?
Doing really well. I want to say a special hello to the fans of Badass and to the extreme music family around the world.
Yes, sir. It's an honor to have you on here. Like I said, your music has influenced definitely me. I know it's influenced anybody that's ever listened to or played fast music. I mean, you guys are always, you guys are up there since, 83, 84, playing unbelievably fast music, especially for that time. And, it's an honor to have you on here. So are you in Weymouth right now?
I'm not. I moved to one of the beach communities in Massachusetts where there's perhaps a greater percentage of people who are devoted to creativity and to their artistry, various disciplines.
Wow.
Like a lot of working class towns in various cities around the world. The drug epidemics hit my hometown pretty hard, but there's still an undercurrent of rock musicians and great aspiring artists, a young generation of artists there in Weymouth. Yeah, I live in one of the neighboring beach towns now down the Cape.
There you go. Shout out to New England already. Uh, awesome. So let me ask you that. Let me ask you, start off. Were you able to stay like active musically over the past year with what's been going on with the lockdowns and all that, or how did that affect you?
Thanks to my extended family of extreme music siblings and our community, I was able to continue and to stretch and reach out in new ways. It happened like this. First, my songwriting partner from Siege laid an electronic drum set on me. I thought that wasn't my bag, but the technology has really progressed, and I was really able to get my chops together
Nice.
even further in new ways because it wasn't obnoxiously, deafeningly loud and wouldn't get the cops down the way I destroy the standard drum sets. So that was significant. I walked with some of the great drummers, record copying, playing along with Billy Cobham, developing jazz chops and applying that to grindcore styles, not necessarily the polished mathematical, specific and precise grindcore drumming styles, but one that's perhaps more visceral, primitive, and savage. So also a couple of little indie labels set me up with my first home recording equipment. I've usually relied on brothers and sisters who were engineers and studio owners and producers to help me realize my work. So now that I have a small amount of home studio recording equipment, I'm able to do some absolutely bizarre, sicker, more dissonant, more abrasive, more courageous, exploratory types of songs, pieces, compositions, textures, atmospheres. So, although I don't want to try to present what's occurred in the last year in a positive light, like everyone else, I have mobilized as best I could and made the most of what we can do in the downtime while we can't go to shows like festival shows, like Obscene Extreme, etc., which is where my heart is tonight.
You know what?
That's where ideally you and I would be tonight.
Well, you know what? It's funny you mentioned that because I got a little I guess a little overexcited, and if you don't mind, I want to play a short clip to show everybody, get everybody psyched up from Obscene Extreme, for everybody to check out. This was from 2019, and the band is doing the classic Conform. I mean, well, they're all classics, right? But I think Conform is, if you want to call Siege a hit from Siege, that would be that one. If you want to, most well-known songs. So, because it's been covered countless of times, and rather well actually. So I've heard a lot of great covers of the song. But anyhow, let's check out Siege at Obscene Extreme in 2019 quickly.
I dig it.
Thanks very much.
Hell yeah. All right. So if anybody
As
maybe
you can see,
hadn't seen,
as you can see, the dude with the inflatable green guitar leapt on stage at the very climax to have a 3 guitar attack.
yeah,
Wow.
exactly.
When I see that, see, like a lot of sensitive artists, I don't really watch my shit afterwards,
Right,
like
right.
some people do. But when I see that, wow, it all comes rushing back. I just have to express my gratitude to extreme music fans worldwide that made that shit possible. The Obscene Extreme family backstage, all of the technical people, the person that fucking did that live mix right there. It
Yeah,
sounds phenomenal.
I
When I
agree.
see that also, I have to laugh because like we still rehearse in a cellar in Weymouth. So we can keep that authentic feeling. It just really felt right, even though not all of us live in that dismal hometown anymore. Um, we still rehearse there. I'm still in touch with the original hostility and rebelliousness that belched forth this shit.
Yeah, well, I was going to
So,
say, if anybody doubts the the way Siege still like performs, I mean, that there alone, that video alone proves to you that you guys are still destroying. So uh,
but
that's awesome.
within a very short period of time, we went from being in the cellar in Weymouth to being there
Yeah,
in Trutnov, and it was just surreal. It happened so swiftly,
yeah,
and it's a magnificent festival, the greatest festival in the world, although there are many that are very close second. And I look forward to being in the pit up front as a fan once again, hopefully very soon. I know there's a lot of people out there that feel the same way.
yeah. Is so? Let's usually I kind of go start at the beginning and work our way to the present, but let's stay in the present. Is that lineup there in that video still the active lineup today?
Yep. And I'm really proud and grateful for my Weymouth Rock brethren as I see that film because, like I tell you, I don't really watch
Right.
too much because, to tell you the truth, someone has to be thinking about the next thing and pushing forward and reaching courageously towards the next musical conquest and victory. So I appointed myself to do that. And I'm so proud of my Weymouth Rock brethren when I fucking see that clip. Chris Leamy, Chris Leamy from the generation of music, generation of musicians just after ours from a group called Brain Famine. Great player, plays rhythm guitar, plays bass in this case at about 300 miles an hour. Honored also to have the machine strengthened by Ben Barnett on rhythm guitar. Ben Barnett from Drop Dead, of course. So I'm very hopeful, my friends. Mere weeks from now, I intend to summon Kurt Habelt, the original guitarist
Yeah.
from Siege, down from the mountain, and we will reconvene at Drop Dead Space. This was supposed to be a secret, but we're jamming, and I'm hoping to reopen the Siege booking office if circumstances are right. I want fans to really be able to slam, you know?
Yes, sir.
I want there to be the feeling of freedom and enthusiasm that makes it so the slam pit really erupts, honestly. Could be a while, and that's cool.
Yeah. So if anybody watching, if you want, sounds like if you want Siege to come to your town, that's going to be possible soon, right?
Oh no. I'm going to be getting emails for Tuesday night for pizza money now.
All right, so let's go back. Growing up, how did music first come into your world? Like as a child, growing up in Massachusetts, like what was playing around your house when you were a kid? What were your parents listening to, etc.?
When I was very young, I was at 1976, the bicentennial, July 4th, and all the pageantry of traditional patriotism was propped out and marched out. All the colonial costumed imitators, all the National Guard, all the fire trucks. So I saw the drums in drum marching bands, which were militaristic. I was just a little kid. And the snare drum was so fucking loud, I would just like blink from it. I was so struck by and overpowered by the snare drum. But I was also inwardly, instinctually repulsed by the superficial displays of alleged patriotism. Even at a young age, I was like, what the fuck are these people doing? Like, it was too much. So there's always been a feeling of simple, honest rebelliousness behind my drumming. Didn't really come from a musical family, but my widowed mother was very supportive and indulgent of creativity and artistry around the house. So I had a drum set in the den, the living room, and as I've told many times, I didn't have a rug, so the drum set would travel across the room, and I'd have to stop in mid-song and drag it back.
I've been there.
So there was always a feeling of an aspiration to express honestly volcanic inner destruction, destroying the drum set.
Right.
You see? So a couple of very significant shows. It may sound kind of lame to today's extreme music audiences, but at a young age, some of us were into Devo, Gary Newman, some of the new wave bands. So then we went to the first performance of Minor Threat in Boston,
which is this photo, which I snagged.
Oh, you're good. You are good, baby. See, check this out. That baby-faced individual.
Let me zoom it in. Where are you? I guess in comparison to Ian.
This white T-shirt here with the elbows on the stage.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah.
How young were you there?
I wish I could place it, man. But I'm sure if you could locate the year, Al Quint could help us with this.
Yeah.
He knows the years of things. This individual, myself there in the middle, has never done a bong hit, but it's not because I was straight edge like some of the other individuals in this picture. You see, in Boston, not to talk shit, but some of the straight edge original crew,
yes,
who were into hardcore, it was like the birth of the tough guy shit. Like,
yes.
like there was war stories of people slapping beers out of others' hands, and like if you were a little bit younger than them, and if you smoked weed, um, you weren't necessarily welcomed by the oftentimes brutish, straight edge Boston original crew. Like a lot of them were into hockey, and to me, what it looked like at that time was like, "Hey, man, what does this have to do with punk rock?" You know, like standing up front, frowning, ignoring the band, then throwing punches at people. Like, why not enjoy the music and get psyched about the music, and then have it erupt around the music?
Yeah.
Why must you instigate physical rioting, which is not generated honestly by the rock music? So, to tell you the truth, what it reminded me of is the unfortunate instances where I had seen Christian rock. Our rock music and the excitement it generates had been horribly misappropriated into something cheap and been hijacked for a very laughably inauthentic purpose. So that's what I thought of some of the second tier C list. Of course, not the major Boston straight edge hardcore bands, all of which we all respect and who are legendary and who are, in my opinion, and that of anyone who loves this kind of music, beyond criticism. But some of the hangers on, dude, were punching people and whatnot, and it was really fucking dreadful. So that fueled our determination to continue. Can you dig that?
Oh yeah.
And we were into the British bands. So I particularly liked Anti-Sect, In Darkness, There Was No Choice. There is no choice. Of course, like everyone else, the Early Discharge.
Oh yeah.
So our influences extended beyond just Boston. I was into the noisier shit too, Flipper.
Yeah.
And that lifted us out of the suburbs, the traditional traps of the expectations of closed-minded parents, school principals. See, it was a very different time then. When you went on a job interview, you were expected to be very, very conservative in your presentation. You couldn't show up inked up, you know, with a lumberjack beard like today. There was a lot of pressure to conform to what we now recognize today as archaic
Yeah.
traditions, conformism, like what Siege writes about and sings against in that song. So that song's an honest belch of outrage against what life was like back then. And punk rock music, British punk in particular, gave us something to reach toward, to aspire to, greatly influenced us.
Yeah. Let's go back. You mentioned this band briefly, but I had Paul Birnbaum, the drummer of Septic Death, who I'm assuming you're familiar with. He was on the show, and he also listed Devo as a massive influence on him growing up, which you did too, which I find I think it's kind of cool that there's that comparison with, you know, you guys playing such extreme stuff and Septic Death doing the same thing, living on opposite ends of the world, but Devo was still that common, I guess, inspiration between you guys? What was it about Devo that did it for you?
Great question, man. Let me describe this for you because I was fortunate enough to see Devo twice in the early days at the Orpheum Theater in Boston, Mass. One was the New Traditionalists tour, and one was the tour that came before that. So, even more devoted fans of Devo than myself will know specifically which tours those were. But this was a movement, man. Every nerd in New England was gathered in that room. There were energy domes and radiation suits everywhere. It was a real feeling of empowerment over anti-intellectualism. So there was also championing of the absurd. So the second time I saw them, they had conveyor belts, which they were marching to the rhythm on these conveyor belts right in the edge of the stage.
Awesome.
Marching to the rhythm of the music. So then when they play their song Smart Patrol Mr. DNA, there's a tempo change and it starts going faster. So they begin running towards the audience in unison.
Awesome.
So it stops cold and they freeze in their poses as the conveyor belts draw them backwards into the darkness.
Awesome.
It was more than just a band. This was a multimedia pummeling. It was
Yeah.
magnificent. It makes Blue Man Group seem like a cheap.
High school talent show.
Yeah, thank you. So, but there was also a great feeling of reassurance from the band that it was okay to be punk, that it was okay to perhaps be a little smarter than the average old school lunkhead or jock.
Right.
So that led to learning about the music that had influenced Devo, which I still listen to today. Brian Eno, Kraftwerk, etc. So listening and learning about punk music and the various subgenres of extreme music is a journey. Like someone who goes to restaurants all the time. You become, or perhaps a better example is the stomach of a goat. The extreme music enthusiast has the stomach of the goat because first you're eating a license plate, then you can eat an entire tire. Our tastes progress, so we're able to digest more and more dissonant and more abrasive music. Indeed, we begin to crave it and to seek it out. So, what starts with Devo is now Merzbow and Nails and Cannibal Corpse, Hammer Smashed Face, etc.
Right.
You see,
Yes, sir.
it's a progression.
So was that Minor Threat show your first punk show? The one in the picture that I showed a while ago? Was that the very first like underground punk show you went to?
Yes, thank you for getting me back on track with the question too. So
No, it's okay.
no, but dig this. It was the sound check. They played a song called Filler. It was my first live
Oh,
hardcore.
unbelievable.
We were right up front, and this was in an art gallery in Boston called Gallery East.
I've heard of
Very,
it.
very fortunate to have seen a flyer on a telephone pole or heard about this show from friends. That's how we heard about shows then.
Right.
Real, authentic word of mouth. real old school kidnapper note type flyers and DIY in the truest, purest, and earliest sense. So I was very fortunate as a little kid to stumble upon that. And what did I see? Shows like Process of Elimination Tour, Touch and Go, Meatman, SSD. I could go on, but you know what,
The
man?
early days.
What
Early
matters
days.
is what matters is the spirit of rebellion, of nonconformism, of inclusiveness, of all the different types of punk rockers and metalheads out there, and the future of extreme music. That's what really matters.
Yeah. So I guess before I wanted to bring this up because this is one of my all-time favorite bands, and I believe if I read correctly or saw correctly, this was your very first concert. Seeing this tour right here, and I love this damn band. Am I correct?
And that's a photograph of the back of my first concert T-shirt.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was in my drug-singed mind. I equate those two shows, the Minor Threat and the AC/DC show.
Yeah.
Let me briefly tell you about this show. This was at the Orpheum Theater where I was talking about those Devo shows.
Right.
Very, very different crowd. Really rowdy, leather-clad rockers. So,
Right.
I'm almost ashamed to say I was a private school kid when I went to that show. And I saw this villain, this rocker, this ruffian, ripping an ornate lamp out of the wall joyously, just like so crazed by electric rock and roll. He was elated. There was a feeling of electricity in the air, it's like that feeling like it's almost a riot.
Right.
Later, in the underground, it would be the same spirit that manifests itself in slam dancing. But in a big concert like AC/DC Back in Black tour, and man, there was a lot of drinking going on. So it was on the way out of there.
Yeah.
Like at a good arena show, people are hooting and hollering.
Mm-hmm.
And then I see this motherfucker rip out like an ornate antique lamp out of the wall, and the plaster is tumbling to the floor and shit. The wires are stretching out of the lamp as he's crazed and elated, just ripping a fucking lamp out of the wall. So when I saw that, mind you, this is after seeing Saxon and AC/DC. But early Back in Black. So, yes, I was amazed, but I was like, man, it was life-changing. Like, I was hooked into worship and hope to reside in an aspiration to participate in the rock and roll life. Right. I think that motherfucker did more for me than any politician or pastor.
We got a comment here. Still so much passion for extreme music after all these years. Robert's enthusiasm is contagious. So that's right. So let me tie those two together. Minor Threat and AC/DC. Brian Baker, one of his all-time favorite guitarists is actually Malcolm Young from AC/DC. So I thought I'd tie those two together since Brian Baker worships AC/DC. So
what a rhythm guitar sound!
Oh, unbelievable! I mean, I could spend all night talking about AC/DC. Those that know me know I worship old ACD. I worship. I even have the new album that I got right here. I always have here just to show off. But yeah, I love them, especially way back when I was a 9-year-old punk that first heard them. So uh, anyhow,
Oh, I began wearing my ACDC concert T-shirt that you just showed,
yeah,
which says "Giving the dog a bone."
yeah. The song titles, yeah,
Beating around the bush. So, but this is to, a prep school in white bread suburban Boston. So, got called down the office. It was a violation of the dress code. So, what else was I going to say about this? Those two influences, metal, hard rock,
yeah,
hardcore, punk rock, combined very quickly, like most other adventurous rock music listeners. I left the wimpy shit behind. So
right.
um, I began playing on drums the AC/DC records on 45 RPM. This is
So,
the way I developed my drumming style.
I mean, this
So
guy's right on. I'm sorry to cut you off, but this guy's right on point. He actually asked that. Did you actually learn to play drums by playing that ACDC on 45? So yes, please.
yeah, it was beating around the bush,
Wow.
which is the one that I encourage drumming students at home to attempt at 45 RPM.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so I actually feel good, and I felt good later when this happened, when I was able to get back together with Siege's original singer, Screamin' Kev Mahoney.
Right.
We did a second album together, and back then the cops would come down because it was too loud. And when I was playing AC/DC on 45, the same thing would happen. Complaints from the neighbors. I actually like it. I think that it's a good feeling that we've achieved something, we've arrived,
Right.
we are authentic, valid. The squares hate us. It's too loud. You're too old. A
Yeah.
job well done.
Exactly. I mean, if you have the cops come by your house after a complaint, you're doing something right. So,
Yeah, it happened a couple of the times. It happened a couple of times when I jammed with these two brothers from Weymouth,
yeah,
Eric Yetman and Jason Yetman. So, that was really good sound because we were jamming in a big wooden warehouse, a rickety, almost abandoned factory in Rockland, Mass. And we had big amplification, a Sovtech head, and he was playing a Rickenbacker bass. It sounded so good in that wooden room. So good in a space where it's able to resonate naturally and authentically.
right.
So then, see, there was an outer door on this place. Somehow the police got through the outer door, and all of a sudden they were outside the actual rehearsal room, uniformed police. What a feeling when we continued playing. Yeah, they dig it. And you know what? That's the thing that humbles me and honors me, that I feel honored by, rather, about being able to return to performing,
Right.
and reaching more fans with Siege. is there's all kinds of people, man.
Oh yeah,
Punks, squatter punks, noise fans, um, metalheads, of course. Our closest metal family members are there. So, we're very fortunate to have a diverse family of people who show up at shows. And you know something else, man, is I'm sure you felt this, and a lot of people out there have felt this too. Sometimes when you're at one of the big metal or punk shows or festivals, you feel like you know some of these people already.
right.
It's like a beautiful family reunion. It's like, oh, we're there. Well, oh, I feel like I know you. This is fucking beautiful.
Let me ask you: was this album compilation an influence on you guys?
Oh, absolutely. And the accompanying 7-inch.
Right.
There is a supplementary 7-inch. Let's go a little deeper, and I'll tell you what was happening in the Boston scene at that time. Okay,
Absolutely.
the straight edge crowd sometimes were vocal in their opposition to excessively preachy. That's how political bands were labeled, as preachy, which is ironic because Discharge was the group that influenced a lot of us. But there was a rivalry between the Freeze, who are from Cape Cod,
Yes.
and SSD Control, apparently. So you'll see on this right here, it says, fuck off to narrow minds who see the narrow way. A lot of people took that as a slight narrow way. It is a thinly veiled bitch slap at straight edge, narrow, straight. You see what I'm saying? There's
Oh,
also a song called Narrow Way on that album. So it was as though I was witnessing the birth of tough guy jockcore, or I was witnessing the fork in the road, the division between West Coast oriented melodic pop punk, which was more idealistic lyrically, and what became hardcore as we know it today. There wasn't such polarized divisions and oversimplification in the genres back then.
right.
So I was privy to witnessing the birth of, or perhaps we should look at it as the death of dimension and diversity, and the beginning of tragic bullying, machismo, and polarization in the scene.
Right.
At the same time, hardcore bands were becoming more metal. The ones in Boston were.
Yeah, they all had their metal
The
albums.
FUs, yeah. But this is something I'm fucking proud of. We were playing at like 300 miles an hour at that point.
Right.
I wish we had developed the professionalism to create a second recording, because it would have been the absolute opposite. We were fucking really at the summit of Everest as far as fast hardcore and
Right.
blurcore, or what we now know as grindcore. So that can now be achieved again better, because we are better musicians now, because the necessity for a sincere, passionate, lyrical vision of protest is even more glaring now. Um, because we have two guitars now, so the attack and assault and the presentation of our work is vastly improved over the original group. The way the original Siege was like this. You didn't fucking know if you were even going to be able to play the whole show. It was like being aboard a roller coaster, almost to go off the rails. Like
Right.
people were getting electrocuted, like um the guitarist gets shocked on anything could happen.
Right.
So it was a feeling of clamoring, desperate relief and explosive electric power. It was so fucking loud. I'm really proud of that. Also, is that Kurt Habelt had the nutsack and the sense to acquire a vintage Marshall tube head. You dig?
Well,
So
I actually wanted to bring this up. Let's get into that. You guys, I wanted to get into your memories of recording this. I mean, this recording here has stood the test of time since for what are we 37 years now or whatever it is. I'm not trying to do the math in my head, but what was I guess what were you guys trying to achieve at the time when you recorded this? And what was it like? What was the recording process like? Like whoever the engineer was, what were they thinking? Like, what the hell is this? Or can you speak a little bit about that?
well, first you have to hear a little bit about what a magical time it was to be getting into collecting music, seeing live music, recording music.
Right.
Around this particular studio, Radio Beat, all of the heavy bands and some formidable and accomplished pop punk bands from Boston. All of them were recording at this particular studio. There was an orbit around this studio. You could meet other groups
Right.
and um, find out about shows that are coming up. So when I went into this studio, Radio Beat, which was right in the center of Kenmore Square of Boston, it was in a place formerly occupied by the radio station WRKO. So the fixtures of the radio station, the windows and booths still remained. It had been taken over by these audio entrepreneurs from Radio Beat, and all of the exciting groups of this era were recording there. And any of the Boston hardcore that you mentioned, SST Control, etc.,
Right.
were recorded at Radio Beat. So you go in there, and these cats really know their shit. They had rented a special monolithic concrete block of a reverb unit, especially for Siege's session. The Siege recordings, see, there's a benefit to going to a separate recording studio and being on the clock, because there's a sense of forcefully pursuing a clearly defined goal, hopefully.
Yeah.
There's a sense of immediacy, like, okay, we're fucking paying for this.
Yeah.
Let's
do it.
Yeah. So that really contributed. Being on the clock,
Wow.
being a teenager, having no fucking money, and there was all a sense of excitement. And when Siege played, there was a lot of adrenaline and a lot of volume. So what you're hearing was basically recorded live, almost, with a certain grandeur in the reverb of it. with a certain classic echo or feel to it. What a feeling of satisfaction after the recording was complete. Anyone who knows Boston knows the parking garage in Kenmore Square in Boston. There's a big Sitco sign, so I went up there and smoked a joint after we completed the recording. And I just remember this feeling like of relaxed post-battle satisfaction in my viscera. A feeling of stillness. This is fucking Valhalla. I have just recorded Grim Reaper, which is cathartic.
Right.
But anytime you play that one, there's a huge purge and catharsis. So, we went back there twice in the same year. So first we did the Drop Dead cassette that you just showed. Then we went back and did 3 tracks for the Pusshead comp, which was even more.
Yeah.
I'm reminded of my addiction to the aspiration for professionalism. When I think about recording these 3 particular tracks.
Yeah.
It just feels so fucking good to go in and execute and explode. So there was some times when they asked me to overdub the floor tom. So like on the pounding ending of Cold War, I had a 20-inch Tama Superstar floor tom. I call it Big 20. I still have this thing. And it could just shake your bowels a mile away. So I overdubbed a couple of the floor tom parts, like in brisk, minuscule moments on the recording with heavy reverb on it. Trade secret. Floor tom. I stood up at the floor tom and pounded on it. Like that the missing link in 2001, down by the mud hole with the bone in the film 2001.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah.
Much like that.
Yeah.
That was one of the highlights for me of that particular session. What else was cool was I was living in Kenmore Square at the time, and like I said, the time for college radio, going to clubs, seeing live music, early hardcore, garage punk.
Yeah.
Yeah, the garage band scene, the pop, the C-list lo-fi pop punk scene, the college radio scene in Boston. It was just a fucking amazingly magical time to be getting into seeing live music, to live in the city during that period of time.
Yeah.
Was amazing.
So,
that's a good statement. Amazing is something that we just say and it sounds like shit. But I'm telling you, it was a magical education in underground music.
Yeah, bet. One interesting thing about this flyer is whoever made it for the cleanse of bacteria, they misspelled C's. So I got a kick out of it when I was looking for photos. Like, oh my God, SEIGE. So
it gets worse, and I probably shouldn't tell you this, but they misspelled one of the names of one of the band members too.
Oh so. Man. All right, so let
No,
me.
it's something that we laugh at.
Yeah, here's you know what? Now, one of the my personal like to me, this is like the reason YouTube was invented. Your performance at that in '84, I guess it was it a TV show or was it the Battle of the Bands or what? I'm not sure. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, but it's all you see is you four guys just absolutely destroying. Like you're playing in front of like 20,000 people, but it's just you four guys on screen, and it's one of the greatest videos of all time, most insane, intense. And I wanted to play a little bit of it. See if I refresh your memory a little bit on what this was and what you remember about it. So here it goes. That's one of the greatest things ever captured on film to me. But so what was that exactly, and what memories do you have of that? And speak a little bit. I mean, I haven't asked it yet, but I mean, Siege was your drumming, the insane guitar parts, and especially Kevin's vocals. If you would just kind of like I said, talk about that video, and then a little bit about Kevin, because you know, dude was a monster.
Well, it's funny that this has been labeled as the public access TV video, because what it was one of the guys in the band had an older sister who had a boyfriend who used to videotape weddings. And the wedding videotaping guy came by, a non-punk rock person just came by as if he was doing us an enormous favor and created that in our rehearsal space. The
Wow.
rehearsal space was in a very liberal church, which was in Jackson Square in East Weymouth. One of the more tolerant denominations, certainly, if they were allowing Siege to rehearse in the fellowship hall of this church. So we actually had a key to this place. They let me store the drum set in a closet there, and it was so fucking loud.
Yeah, you can hear
So
it on the video. It's the way it just it's amazing. I love it.
yeah, so that is in one of the meeting rooms of the East Weymouth Congregational Church,
That's awesome.
filmed by a wedding guy.
It makes me love it
Um,
even more.
so there you can, I'm pleased and fucking pumped as I see that, because I'm still there. I still feel the same. I still feel the same passion, the same motivation of being very appalled by America's wars and being so frustrated by that I want to destroy my drum set. So what you're seeing in that video is something very authentic, very primitive, very visceral. So Kevin Mahoney was quite a character. Say about 10 feet away from where the camera is positioned, there would be a folding table like you see at any church fair, and he would have a margarine cup with the plastic cover on it, which he had a hot toddy, which is a whiskey with lemon. So this is, and he had a voice. His talking voice was like that, like Froggy from the Little Rascals, like incredibly fucking harsh, like he drank bleach or like he's been a chain smoker, which he wasn't. He was just a very raspy, confident, fully realized, combative personality and individual. He's a poet. Towards the end of his life, he was an actor in Cambridge, Mass, and in Boston, semi-pro theater. Self-published a couple of poetry books. Very uncompromisingly idealistic and artistic and creative person. Very combative as well. So there was a backstage dynamic of creative differences, which also made the shows absolutely fucking insane. I had no idea what was going to happen. Are we going to play or not? Is it going to explode or not? Are people going to start punching one another? Or the slam pits back then also were becoming increasingly crazy. I can remember some Black Flag show and some Misfits shows, and it's like you were taking your life in your hands when you went out into the pit. I'm sure people talk this tough guy shit about war stories a lot, but I'm just now that I'm strolling down memory lane here, I'm recollecting cowering in fear at the side of pit as people are, This is before the days of karate and kerchiefs.
Oh yeah.
This was knuckle and skull. It was all rather dreadful. So, we were talking about that particular video, and we were talking about Mahoney.
Right.
And another funny thing was that was before I got a decent Gretsch drum set. So the drum stool I have was actually a restaurant ashtray with no cushion. Like I had no money, so
right.
So I had like an ashtray up my ass. So that's how I developed my distinctive war face.
You know what? I like when things seem to flow, because I have. And that's what I was going to ask about. Well, first of all, this picture is hilarious, but your faces, you have some classic faces whenever you're playing drums. But this photo here just kills me.
That's more recent. Yeah.
That's definitely more recent. But there's some faces that you like. Every photo that I saw, I'm like, and of course I picked this one because of the drumsticks or whatever that somebody placed there. What's going on there?
The drumsticks? What do you mean?
See that
it's grindcore, man.
Yeah, that's how you develop your chops. You play with.
No, I think my drumming brother Bill Feeney from Weymouth, Mass, laid those on me. It's a gift. Yeah. What you're seeing is devotion to playing the drums, to destroying the drums. What
Yeah.
you're seeing is the give and take of gratitude to my fellow musicians, Ernie Kim, saxophone, Chris Leamy, bass, rhythm guitar, Mark Fields, Kurt Haybelt, beloved, oldest friend and songwriting and destruction partner from Siege. So when the volume starts flowing and it's a swirling cauldron
Okay.
of locking into the groove, deafeningly loud, well, what you're seeing is. See, yeah, you had to close up in on it now.
Oh shit! I lost him. Oh, damn it! I don't know what happened. Hopefully he can log back on. But anyhow, so hopefully everybody's enjoying this Siege talk. Um, I mean, legendary band. Hopefully he can log back on here shortly. Let me send them. Oh, there he is.
There?
Yo, yeah, yeah. You just cut off.
Yeah, I thought maybe you thought that I was displeased with your.
No, 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 no. I mean that
You know,
picture's out there publicly, so I just assumed it'd be okay to use.
I'm deeply touched, and well, what can I say?
Well, actually, you mentioned
it's my war face, and there have been some influential war faces through the history, like Negative Approach, John
John
Brandon.
Brandon. Oh my
Yeah,
God,
see
yes.
there we go. There we
Oh
go. And
yeah, oh,
there's some
absolutely.
other insane. I know
Yeah,
it
John
looks
Brandon.
insane,
John
but
Brandon's a perfect example. That guy there is
right.
scary.
I'm sure he'll tell you the same thing, that it's just um something loving which occurs when you love your music deeply.
Absolutely.
That's the facial expression you make.
Yeah,
So try it at home.
yeah, yeah. Well, I make those faces whenever I listen to Negative Approach or Siege. So it's you're sharing. Your music brings that out in people, including myself. So speaking
You
of
know,
Kurt Haybelt, can you explain what happened here?
okay, so not too long after or
There we go.
before, during the same period of brain cells that film was made,
Yeah.
this performance was given at our high school. So it was a battle of the bands at the high school, and there was a couple of cover bands that were playing. One played Van Halen, and they had fuzzy boots and like those high pitched, flimsy, tubular toms like Van Halen, like
Oh yeah.
the fruity sounding one. Here comes fucking Tinkerbell. So it was a bunch of cover bands and Siege.
Oh wow.
So a few hardcore obsessed freaks from the North Shore of Boston from a group called Cancerous Growth actually came down and crashed our high school when they heard that we were going to do this. So here we have photographic evidence of the unbridled instinctual ingeniousness of my colleague Kurt Haybelt, who thought it was a good idea to wear a t-shirt reading simply "fuck off." So what's offstage, what you don't see, is the principal of the high school, who has the power cord for his Marshall in his grasp and in his hip. He's saying, the show's over. I'm paraphrasing here.
Yeah.
remove the shirt.
Wow.
I feel, and whoever hasn't gone straight and forgotten about this show, whoever was there, and I'm sure they agree with me. I felt that we won that night. We didn't particularly win. Part of that was the reason we were disqualified. There was also a smashing of a bass guitar. It was all really excellent. There was a mounting excitement about Siege, about being in Siege. We just fucking lived for it, man. You know,
Yeah.
and what a great feeling. Now, people like you or me are older. We're more serious about our music, um, more knowledgeable, perhaps, um, with a civilized restraint. But back then, we fucking
No,
lived for being in this band. We couldn't wait to be together and to jam again. And
yep.
like Devo, hardcore was a movement. The United States really hadn't heard music that loud and explosive up until that point,
Right.
you know. So what a
Absolutely.
feeling! What a feeling that I still strive for, and that I believe comes naturally to younger musicians, of just absolutely fucking masochistic devotion and fucking living for it.
Let's fast forward in I think 91. You guys briefly kind of reunited. Um, what looking back at it now? What's your take on that era of the band now? Uh, with having all this time gone by now, do you see that as it was the right thing that it was a not necessarily right or wrong thing to do, but are you glad you did it?
I would call that era a false start, aborted reunion attempt. Um, then, as now, we wanted very much to succeed, and like a lot of creative and artistic people, we weren't necessarily the best business people at the time. So there was a divergence. Unfortunately, we mentioned it about some of the other Boston hardcore bands.
Right.
One of the cats in our group was getting more and more into King Crimson. So there was perhaps a civilization of the aspiration of our sound, and a, I hate this term, um, misguided maturity of our compositional aspirations and ambitions at that time.
Yeah.
So the time was not right to generate additional extreme hardcore. The good thing is, right after Cleanse the Bacteria, we wrote a bunch of stuff. It's still in a folder, still got a lot of the compositions and arrangements and lyrics right here from that era.
Wow.
So, if we properly skip over that era and we come to 2016, when we reconvened to authentically present Siege's original recordings as best we can, indeed, even better with two guitars, um, you get a link to what we were actually feeling and doing back then. So I'm glad that it didn't result in a recording, because I don't really want to compromise our savagery, even if we're compositionally ambitious. And another thing was happening. I wanted to write my own music, form my own group, not riding on Siege's coattails and accolades, but from scratch.
Right.
I made an insane masochistic decision to embrace and adopt and foster some utter degenerates from our hometown of Weymouth, a group called Nightstick, and I did 3 full-length recordings with relapse with those cats.
Yeah.
So what was inside of me at that time, when there was that lost session and that aborted detour of a period,
Yeah.
was someone who wanted to write music and to lead something new myself. So it wasn't too long after that some of those cats, myself included, divided and created other groups, as we know.
Right.
Um, so that's, if we look at it now coldly and like a musical parent, we see that it's best that people grow and write and lead their own shit. And that each individual contributor and instrumentalist be encouraged to write and form their own group. That's what I fucking want, really.
Right. So, so was it just one more question? So was it the songs, the was it the writing, or was it that, or was it you brought in Seth to sing? Was it the you know, did he just not work out for you, or was it just, like I said, the songs that were written at that time that you kind of maybe wish you guys would have gone a little different direction?
Um, Honest answer, I feel that Seth, who was younger and his whole career in extreme music was before him, or a significant portion was before him. It hadn't happened yet when we first met him.
Right.
Um, Both he and I wanted to lead our own ensemble. So it was bursting out of him, clearly impossible to restrain. As
Yes.
extreme music history showed, his drive and individuality was impossible to restrain.
Yeah.
And I too wanted to write my own shit. Um, so it was a detour into decadence for a while when I personally explored and aspired to create new forms of extreme music. In my
Right.
case, I wanted to create noise music organically using guitars, bass, and drums, like Weirder Hendrix or Sonic Youth, or prepared tunings on the guitar. Um, so then, over time, more and more people became fans of Siege's recordings
Yeah.
and always mentioned it to me. And the demand of fans became a collective honor that I could not ignore. You dig?
I got you. I got you.
So I worked very, very hard to rise to that occasion and to be worthy of that honor, to do something positive and meaningful coming out of mere decadence or debauchery or shock value. We're capable of something more with extreme music than mere cheap throwaway shock value. We're capable to uplift audiences and to say something positive
I got you.
lyrically. So I recognized and now aspire to be worthy of the honor of Siege's family of fans and presenting this music.
Right. Just one thing. We'll be wrapping it up here. I'm going to give. There's some questions that people have asked that I told them I'd ask you, but
all right, man.
This is this photo here. Now, I want you to talk about the photo session, and that's it. I mean, I don't.
All right.
That's just classic, man. However anybody looks at it, that to me, it's just unreal.
Well, that particular shot is one of the outtakes.
Yeah.
From the session. It's not the actual
cover
photo. That was taken across the street from my apartment in Weymouth, in North Weymouth. The brick building is the North Weymouth Public Library.
Wow.
This cat getting his face punched in is the actor and improvisational dancer who portrays Padoinka the Clown in Nightstick.
Oh, okay.
He's a cat named Goyce, Chris Joyce.
Yeah.
So if you can picture Seth directing like a deranged Kubrick.
Yeah.
Yelling. Really punch him, Robert. Really punch him. No, really punch him.
That's classic.
And Chris Joyce, the individual portraying the victim, is like, don't fucking really punch me or I'll fucking punch you. And Seth is yelling, really punch him. The photographs were taken by an extreme music enthusiast and someone that we love very much. And I wanted to give a shout out to Yasuhiro Koketsu, party technician. I love you, Yasu. East meets West.
I mean, that's just, I mean, the face you're making. And I mean, I know this is the outtake, but I mean, this is just, it's great. It really looks like a movie still.
The face? What are you talking about?
Well, you yeah.
Talking with you again, man.
Yeah. No, it's that drum face.
It's triggering me and upsetting me, so we better move on.
Oh, okay.
It's so very violent.
I got you. That's funny. But anyway,
I'm cringing here.
I just know.
I feel like I have diarrhea.
Trust me, that's people love that photo. But
people have come up to me and asked me, is that from a film?
Yeah.
I get a lot of, is that real?
Anybody ask you to recreate it?
I don't really like that. It's like when people go up to De Niro and say,
Exactly.
Hey, you talking to me?
Yeah.
Go ahead, do it, Bob.
Yeah.
Well, come on, let it be an honest moment.
Right. I got you.
If you see me make that face, it will be the last thing you fucking see.
There we go. All right, so Let's get a couple questions before we call it a night. But somebody asked us way early, how old were you? How old were you when you started Siege? What was your age?
Okay, I wouldn't say that I started Siege. It gathered naturally
Well, yeah.
from a group of friends, so I would never single-handedly take credit for starting Siege. However, in 2016, I did have the audacity to lead and reconvene this group. And I'm so glad that I reached out and did that. And I'm so fucking grateful for Extreme fans worldwide. Before we conclude, let me fucking say that again. Thank you to everyone out there.
Absolutely.
But it's inseparable from me starting to play the drums, and I'd say that we were about 16.
Okay.
Siege was called Phlegm at first, and we went for a long time without a singer. But the destruction of the musical instruments grew and grew and grew. 16, 17, 18. But it's an attitude.
Yeah.
You see? So
I mean, you guys had that.
it's the life. You see, yeah. I think we're actually playing better now, thanks to cats like Marky Fields and Chris Leamy, Ernie Kim.
Yeah,
we have saxophone in the band now.
Yeah, you guys do. I'm drawing
Grim Reaper, no TV sketch. Yeah.
Doing live. Yeah. So Josh asked, how did your experience while on the West Coast 2019 Final Siege Tour influence your current outlook on the future of the band?
Oh, that's an excellent question.
Very good question.
I sometimes am reminded of the explosive audience response in LA, in Cali. I'm grateful to the LA and Californian punk families for the magnificent, joyous reassurance that I received thanks to their explosive welcome. You know, I always wanted to have a slam pit so fucking rowdy that it's like the monitors are being pushed backwards, so the guitarists are being pushed backwards into the cymbals and backwards into the drum set, and then unfortunately it's necessary for bouncers to come out to create a line in the front of the stage.
Yeah,
I've seen that many times as a fan at shows, but when it occurred in Los Angeles, thanks to Abraham Rangel and Gabriel Sutton, I just ejaculated. My nutsack popped. It was magnificent. So, to specifically answer the question, the West Coast tour was great to be welcomed, but just as good to play for 10 people or 2 people in Siege's rehearsal space. The accolades of performing in New York City and in California are flattering, but my heart is in a cellar in North Weymouth.
Yep.
As some of the musicians out there know, sometimes the jam session is your best playing.
Oh, absolutely.
The rehearsal.
I know that all too well.
So, yeah, LA is cool and all, and, getting free food and and stuff at the show is really cool, but I like just fucking exploding and destroying my musical instruments down at our sometimes jamming space in Barry Ryan's cellar in North Weymouth. You know?
But having a full room screaming all your lyrics, there's something to that as well, though, right? Like at a show, the crowd just screaming your word, every word to your songs. I mean,
two sold out nights in Leeds, UK, Philly, the Philly punk family,
yeah,
Canada, Slave to the Grind film crew. When you get out there and perform, you realize the unity, the universality, how the extreme music family, the heavy metal family, the punk family means more than just the country where you live. It's what we feel when we walk around Maryland Death Fest. Like, oh,
yeah,
my tribe, I'm at home. You know?
yeah. Okay, last question. Where would it go? JD. Oh, since you were around, you always hear about Reagan era music, and does it? How do you? I guess I'll just ask it. How do you compare the Reagan years versus today, and does it inspire new music? I mean, a lot of people say, "Oh, there's really nothing to write about or to get pissed off about," but there's always something to get pissed off about, right?
And I think that it's more than just I think. I feel, glaringly know, and passionately believe that our idealistic outrage is intrinsically linked to the authenticism of the expression and the savagery of the execution of this form of music. It's inseparable from the outrage which motivates and which creates it. So, yes, a lot of what some of us are feeling now is volcanically similar to what a lot of us were feeling back then.
There you go.
Let me be myself. Let me fuck who I want.
Right.
Let me be proud about that. Let me listen to the sickest shit I fucking want. Let me dress how I want. And some of the outrages that we observe, let us find a positive outlet for our rebellious energy in idealistic music of social protest.
There you go. Well, on that, I want to thank you again. I appreciate giving me your time. It's been awesome. This has been educational.
Great conversation, man. Just
Poetic.
such a relief to speak with a metal brother who's well versed in this music. And it's not just the usual questions. So I'm really grateful also to be able to reach the fans and the family of extreme music lovers out there. So once again, I just want to say cheers, gratitude, and I'll see all of the members of the extreme music family worldwide up front. I love you.
Thank you, sir. Everybody, thanks for tuning in. Like somebody was, we got a vocabulary lesson today too. So thank you for that. and I appreciate your words. I try to make these shows like not the same crap over and over, right? So hopefully I succeeded in that with you tonight. But
It's
again,
excellent, man. keep it up, and I will be tuning in to all your future episodes as a fan.
All right. Thank you very much. That means a lot. And I hope to see Siege in Houston, Texas one day, actually. So just throwing it out there.
All right, man. I'll see you there.
All
up
right.
front.
Have a good night. Thank you very much.
Thank you, man. Good night, everybody.
All right, guys. There it was. That was cool. That was cool, man. Legendary dude. Bright individual. Well spoken. I feel a little dumber now. Nah, but anyway, that was awesome. So thanks for everybody for hanging out. It was cool. I really don't have much else to say other than if you're hanging out and you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and subscribe, man. Help me out. So working on more cool stuff. The autopsy show is getting closer. I will say that autopsy is getting closer. So really psyched about that one. That one's coming soon. Yeah, so still working on a lot of stuff that I can't say, but expect more of the same. And maybe sometime down the line I may do have a band play live on the show. Maybe. Thanks, brother. John Hand episode. Man, we already had like 5 of those. So, but yeah, no, that was cool. Thank you, No Baloney Anzalone. Hey, man, I saw you commenting on the speaking of Boston hardcore on the show with the guy from Deep Wound. I noticed. I was like, hey, look, I know that dude. So, well, I know his name or his YouTube name. But thanks, Richard. Appreciate it, man. It was a lot of fun. Siege. Where are you going to find Siege interviews at? Anywhere. Where? Right here, motherfucker. 12 hours of John Hand. Ooh. I don't know if I could. I don't know. Being the biggest John Hand fan there is, even I can't. I don't know if I can handle that. Confirming out all badass. Thanks, JD. Appreciate it, man. Yeah, I mean, come on, man. Dude helped create a sound, so with this band. So that was fucking cool. All right, that's all I got. As you see on the bottom, if you're on the Instagrams, check us out at Jamming Out All Badass. Oh, that's cool, Richard. I didn't know that. That's cool, man. I didn't know that. You need to do Richard. You need to do another Passed Out zine. You have tons of flyers, maybe still. But you need to do another one of those. Those were cool. I think I still have both of them. I should. But yeah, probably nothing this weekend. Maybe Sunday. May do a Andy Jones. Flim stole their name from Siege. But may do a supporting the scene Sunday maybe. But there's actually imprecation chat on Saturday on Ken's channel. So everybody go check that out on Saturday. I support everybody's channels. So an imprecation are good dudes. So tell everybody about this channel too, though, please. And I'll continue to try to do all badass shows. So other than that, good night. Uh-oh.